Welcome to this course on Microsoft Copilot in the Microsoft 365 Personal experience. In this training, or in this course, I want to help you build a solid and realistic understanding of what Copilot is, what it can do, where it fits into your daily work, and how you can actually use it in a productive way. My goal is not only to show you features, but to help you understand the logic behind the experience, so that you can use it with confidence instead of just clicking buttons without knowing why. This course is designed especially for beginners, students, independent learners, and anyone who wants a practical introduction to AI inside the Microsoft ecosystem. We will cover the core ideas step by step, starting for the basics of Copilot Chat and account setup, then moving into prompting, content creation, memory, pages, notebooks, agents, and app-based experience in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook. By the end of the course, you should not only know what these capabilities are called, but also understand when to use them, how to think about them, and how to avoid common mistakes that beginners often make. One of the reasons this course matters is that many people are hearing about AI everywhere, but they still do not have a clear understanding of how to use it in a practical and responsible way. There is a big difference between seeing impressive demonstrations online and actually knowing how to apply a tool in your own daily work. In this course, I want to close the gap. I want to help you to move from curiosity to real understanding, and from real understanding to useful actions. I also want to see the right expectation from the beginning. And this course is not about using Copilot blindly, and it is not about pretending that AI replaces skill, knowledge, or judgment. Instead, it is about learning on how to work with Copilot in a smart way. That means understanding where it can save time, where it can improve quality, where it will needs your review, and how to build habits that will help you use it with more confidence over time. If we approach the topic in this way, this course becomes much more than a feature overview. It becomes a practical foundation for real-world use. So, what you will learn, as I already mentioned, Copilot Chat and account setup, prompting and content creation, memory, pages, and notebooks, agents, app experiences, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook, and real-world best practices. This is the third and the last course in this series of AI, how to create agents, then AI 901, the full course, and of course now we will learn how to work with Personal M365 experience. But before we start, I must mention that I will be using business Copilot for Business with a full license, just to make our life easier and to save on some credits. By the end of this course, you will see why. Let's go to the next lesson. Before we start, let me introduce myself. My name is Vladimir Živković, and I'm a highly experienced Azure and AWS cloud architect with a strong focus on artificial intelligence and Microsoft 365 Copilot consulting. At the moment of the recording, I work as infrastructure consultant, AI and M365 Copilot solutions expert, and also as an administrator and AI transformation leader within my organization. A major part of my work involves helping the company introduce and integrate AI technologies in a practical and structured way, so that adoption is not only technically successful, but also valuable from a business perspective. I hold a strong portfolio of Microsoft and cloud related certification, including AZ-104, AZ-305, AB-730, AB-731, and SAP CO2 in AWS. And I continue to invest in a professional development and technology as technology evolves. I'm also proud to be a Microsoft certified trainer, which reflects my long-term commitment to sharing knowledge and helping others grow in the industry. Many of you may also know me from Udemy platform, where I spent 5 years of creating extensive marathon-style courses focused on Azure and AWS certifications, cloud technologies, AI services, and Linux. Through that work, I had the opportunity to reach and support tens of thousands of learners around the world as they prepare for certification and advance their careers. What I enjoy most is creating meaningful educational content, helping organizations unlock the real value of cloud and AI, and supporting individuals as they build new opportunities in this digital era. Microsoft Copilot is an AI assistant built to help users complete tasks more efficiently through natural language. At a simple level, you can think of it as a system that allows you to ask for help in plain language instead of relying only on manual steps, menus, and commands. You can ask it to explain a concept, summarize a piece of content, generate a first draft, import writing, organize ideas, or help you think through a problem. That makes Copilot valuable not just as a chatbot, but as a productivity layer that supports thinking, creating, and decision making. At the same time, it is very important that Microsoft Copilot is not one single identical experience everywhere. The name appears across different products, plans, and scenarios, and that can easily confuse beginners. There is a difference between Copilot Chat, Copilot in Microsoft 365 apps, consumer experiences, business experience, and newer capabilities such as pages, notebooks, and agents. One of the most important goals of this course is to help you separate those concepts so that you can understand what belongs to your personal workflow, what belongs to broader Microsoft 365 experiences, and what expectations and realistic in each case. Another useful way to understand Microsoft Copilot is to see it as a bridge between your intention and the result you want to produce. In the past, many digital tasks required you to know exactly where to click, which option to choose, or how to structure something from the beginning. Copilot changes that experience by allowing you to start with natural language. That is a major shift, especially for beginners, because it reduces the gap between having an idea and turning that idea into something concrete. It is also worth saying that Copilot is most effective when you treat it as a collaborator rather than a machine that should do everything perfectly on its own. The strongest results usually come from interaction, refinement, and clear direction. So, from the beginning on this course, I want you to think of Copilot as a tool that can extend your productivity and support you thinking while still leaving you fully responsible for quality, accuracy, and final decisions. So, as you can see, the whole Copilot ecosystem is part of Copilot Chat, M365 apps, pages and notebooks, agents, consumer experience. Different experiences, plans, and scenarios goes all under the Copilot name. Now, let's see how Copilot works in our next slide. To use Copilot effectively, we first need to understand the basic principle behind how it works. Every interaction starts with your input, your prompt, which is commonly called a prompt. That prompt tells Copilot that you want or what you want, but more importantly, it gives the system a direction. Copilot then interprets your request, tries to identify your intent, evaluates the context available to it, and generates a response based on the model and the information it can use. This is why prompt quality matters so much. A vague prompt usually leads to a vague answer, while a precise prompt creates much better conditions for a useful result. Another important part of understanding Copilot is context. Copilot does not always respond in the same way, because the response depends on where you can use it and what information is available at the moment. In some scenarios, it works with general web knowledge. In other cases, it works with the content you provide, such as documents, notes, or files. In app-based experiences, it may also work more directly with the content that is already open in front of you. So, whenever you use a Copilot, it is helpful to think in a structured way. What is my goal? what context I'm giving the system, and how will I validate the final result before I rely on it. So as you can see, the first step is our prompt. This is the input that we give, that will give Copilot a direction. Then the second step is intent and context. System evaluates what you want. The third step is model processing, patterns and language generation. And finally, our response. This is response output that you can refine, review and validate. It is also important to understand that Copilot does not think like a human expert who truly understands the topic in the same way a person does. It generates responses by identifying patterns, interpreting your request, or producing language that fits context to access it. That is why a response may sound confident even when it still needs verification. For beginners, this is a critical lesson because it helps you build healthy trust instead of blind trust. So once you understand this lecture, your whole way of thinking with or working with Copilot becomes stronger. You stop asking only for answer and start designing better interactions. You begin to give better context, define clearer outcomes, and review the output more intelligently. In other words, understanding how Copilot works is not just only technical knowledge, it directly improves the quality of the result you will get in every later lesson on this course. So, first you must ask yourself, what is my goal? To define what you actually need from Copilot. Then, what context are you giving it? Documents, notes, file, or some kind of general knowledge. How you will validate this answer. Always review the output before relying on it. So, understanding how Copilot works, as I already said, directly improves the quality of your result in every interaction. Licensing is one of the most important topics to understand in the Copilot ecosystem because many users assume that the word Copilot always means the same level of capability. In reality, access depends heavily on the type of subscription or product plan you have. Microsoft has consumer experiences, Microsoft 365 Personal and family experiences, premium options and business or enterprise experiences. And those do not all include the same depth of integration or the same limits. If you ignore licensing, you may end up expecting features that are not available in your version, which leads to confusion very quickly. For this course, the most important thing is to stay grounded in the personal user perspective. But as I already mentioned, we will use some of business experience because it really matters what I want to achieve to show you everything. Well, Microsoft announced that Copilot is included in Microsoft 365 Personal and family subscriptions in many markets, with access across apps such as Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, OneNote, and Microsoft 365 Copilot app, while still continuing to offer broader premium or commercial options to other usage needs. At the same time, beginners should understand that personal plans and business plans are not the same product experience. So one of the healthiest habits you can build is to ask, what is included in my plan, what works in my account type, and what limits should I expect before I build a workflow around it. So this is why licensing matters. In the table in front of you, you can see the differences between personal, business, and enterprise experiences and what criteria are we looking for. Licensing also matters because it affects planning. If you're building a personal workflow around Copilot, you need to know not only what is possible in theory, but what is actually available in your own subscription. That helps you avoid wasting time trying to find features that belongs to another plan or account type. A realistic understanding of licensing gives you a much better starting point for learning and for long-term use. The healthiest mindset is simple. Do not compare your personal experience to every business demo you may see online. Instead, focus on learning the capabilities that are truly relevant to your version. If you build scale on the feature you actually have, you will become productive much faster and your expectations will stay realistic. That is always better to learn than learning through frustration and confusion. To make easier to understand, think of the personal offer as an individual productivity experience, while business and enterprise offering are designed for organizational work. Personal is focused on helping one user inside their own Microsoft 365 environment with tasks such as writing, summarizing, analyzing, and creating content in familiar apps. Business and enterprise, on the other hand, are built for people working inside a company environment where AI needs to support collaboration, shared information, organizational processes, security requirements, and administrative control. That difference in purpose is the foundation of the licensing difference. The most important thing you do not get with personal is that full work-oriented grounding that business and enterprise users receive through organizational data. In Microsoft Business Guidance, Microsoft 365 Copilot for your organization is positioned around AI Chat, grounded in organizational data and the web, optimized for work tasks and licensed by work organization. Microsoft 365 Copilot and Microsoft 365 Copilot license resources make that distinction very clear. In practical terms, a personal user should not expect the same kind of the access to company emails, meetings and files, Teams conversation, shared business context, or Microsoft Graph-based work grounding that define the business and enterprise experience. Another major difference is control. Personal is built for individual use, but businesses and especially enterprise are designed for environment where AI, IT governance, compliance, and administrative management matter. Microsoft explains that organizational Copilot experiences can include enterprise data protection or EDP, IT controls, agent management, and broader organizational setup considerations. M365 Copilot pricing both point to those enterprise-ready characteristics. So if someone is comparing these plans, it is important to understand that personal is not the right choice for organization that needs centralized management, advanced compliance expectations, or structured rollout across teams and departments. It is also useful to mention that personal plans come with the consumer-style limits and a narrower set of advanced capabilities. Microsoft Support explains that consumer subscription includes AI credits and feature limits, while higher plans unlock broader usage and additional advanced features. For example, you can find that AI credits and limits show that personal family plans have usage caps and some advanced capabilities such as researcher and analyst are not available there. In addition, scenarios around building and extending agents through Copilot Studio belong to a different licensing and organizational model, not the standard personal experience. So if your goal is personal productivity, personal can be a strong fit. But if your goal is to enterprise-wide AI grounded in company data, advanced governance, and broader extensibility, that business or enterprise is more appropriate path. So in the table in front of you, you can see the differences between these offerings. We have personal, as I already mentioned, business and enterprise. If we go to the next slide, you can see what personal users should know before choosing what plan to buy. So, as you can see, M365 Personal and Family is included in these apps. There is no organizational data grounding, no access to company email, meetings team, or Microsoft Graph work data, no enterprise IT controls, so it has no centralized management, compliance, or advanced governance. There is a limit in AI credits, and you can work with agents or building agents in Copilot Studio. Let's hop to official Microsoft page and see what plans are available. As already mentioned, we will go now to Microsoft.com and you can see what plans do we have for individual, business, enterprise, and Copilot Studio plans. So if we first go to individual plans, we have 3 offerings. This offer includes Microsoft 365 Personal. Here you can see what is included for one person, and this is the only plan that works for you as a one person. Here we have Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook desktop apps with Microsoft Copilot, so you can use these apps with this plan. You can see that we have higher usage than free or for selected Copilot features. We have including AI-generated audio to transfer content, for example, and engaging listening experiences. So what does it mean? It means that you can create some kind of podcast and visual AI assistants to answer questions from your screen or camera. You can use Copilot in selected apps, as I already told you. Higher usage for AI image creation and editing in Microsoft Designer, Photos, and Copilot Chat. So you have some kind of AI credits that you can use. You can use all-day video calling and Copilot in Teams. You can sign up to 5 devices at once. You can use it on PC, Macs, phone, and tablets. And you get 1 TB of secure cloud storage. And of course, you can use video editing for 4K export and so on with Clipchamp. And you have this identity data and device security. So this is the app that we are getting here. We are getting Copilot, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, OneNote. This is our OneDrive. We have Microsoft Defender, Teams, Designer, and we have Clipchamp. There, another individual offer is, as you can see, Microsoft 365 Family. Exactly the same, just exactly the same as a personal, but here this is a family for 6 person. Everything that you get from personal, you get here, but this is for 6 people, and only the subscription owner will get AI Copilot or AI subscription. Each person can use up to 5 devices simultaneously, and you're getting up to 6 TBs of secure cloud data and storage. And finally, the last offer in our individual plans, we have Microsoft 365 Premium. This subscription is everything like Microsoft 365 Family plus AI agents to perform complex tasks for you, like creating sources, cited research reports, performing data analysis and visualization. We have more credits and exclusive access to advanced Copilot features, as you can see, and it is only available for subscription owner. And finally, you're getting extensive usage for AI image creation in editing, so you're getting more credits in simple terms. This is the pricing, as you can see. Finally, you can choose between yearly and monthly, and that's it. The next plan is business plan. We have 3 offers for business plan. We have something called, as you can see, we have something called Business Basic Microsoft Copilot Business. This is basic subscription. Then let me just see, we have standard, business standard, and business premium. So with this we have a AI powered chat by WorkIQ. We have reasoning AI for data analysis, and you can see what applications are we getting here. We have web and mobile versions for Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and other apps. And this is the apps that you're getting. As you can see, you're getting 10 plus additional apps, 1 TB of cloud storage per user, chat, call, and meet with Microsoft Teams. Then we have this next, Microsoft Business Standard. As you can see, you are getting this plan includes, as you can see, SharePoint, for example, and Microsoft Editor, and we have Exchange here also. And finally, we have the best Microsoft Business Premium, Microsoft Premium Copilot for Business. we are getting full access, as you can see, for business standard, business premium users, M365 business, as you can see. And this is the, what are we getting? Plus we're getting Microsoft Enter ID, we're getting Windows 11, and 10 additional apps, as you can see: enterprise grade device, cyber sheet, cyber threat and endpoint protection, and Microsoft Defender and Microsoft Purview, as you can see. But if you want to use, this is only for new customers, but if you want to use full license, you need to buy Microsoft 365 Copilot for business. Chat is included in all of these plans, but if you want full license with work and chat powered by Work IQ, access to Copilot in apps such as Teams, Outlook, Word, PowerPoint, and Excel, you can create your own agents using Copilot Studio and experience enterprise-grade security, privacy, and compliance. You need to buy this another license for full experience, and this is called Microsoft 365 Copilot for Business. And finally, we have Enterprise Plan. This is for companies with 300 and more users. You're getting, as you can see, some different options. It's not listed here, but you can see the one of my previous courses about this, and you will see the whole E5 and E7 offering, which includes co-work. If I remember, E7 is now full offering, and of course we have this Copilot Studio plans. As you can see, you can buy you can choose here pre-purchase plan or pay-as-you-go for Microsoft Studio. So if you want to create an agent with a low code or no code, you will use Microsoft Copilot Studio just for this. But here we are interested in our individual plans, and more about individual plans in the next chapter. I hope this is now much clearer. So it really doesn't matter. Enterprise plans are for enterprise with more than 300 employees. Now let's move on to next. Just to recap the previous lecture. So individual or personal plans are best fit for students, independent users, freelancers, and personal productivity use cases. Businesses for companies that want Copilot grounded in work data and daily team productivity, and enterprises for organizations that need large-scale deployment, security, compliance, and advanced AI management. And now we will talk about what is M365 Copilot Personal, and we will get much more detail. When we talk about M365 Copilot Personal experience, we are talking about a practical AI layer for individual productivity. This experience is meant for people who work with their own documents, notes, presentations, spreadsheets, emails, and personal projects, and who want help doing that work more efficiently. It is not just about asking a chat bot random questions. It is about using an AI inside a broader productivity environment where ideas, documents, content generations, and organization all come together in a more connected way. From my or your point of view, the most useful way to think about M365 Copilot Personal is this. It is not a replacement for your skills, but an accelerator for your work. It can help you get started faster, explore options more quickly, summarize long content, rewrite rough text, and reduce the effort required to move from idea to draft. But you are still responsible for thinking, choosing, reviewing, and making final decisions. That matters because many new users either underestimate Copilot or expect too much from it. The right mindset is somewhere in the middle. Use it actively, but use it responsibly. Of course, another reason this experience is valuable is that it supports multiple types of work in one ecosystem. You can brainstorm in chat, build drafts, improve writing, analyze content, and continue working inside familiar apps. Microsoft has also introduced dedicated capabilities around agents for Word, Excel, and PowerPoint that help users create files from natural language instructions. And these are available to Microsoft 365 users, including personal and family plans. That means the personal experience is no longer just about a simple chat assistance. It is increasingly about helping individuals move from request to usable output much faster, while still staying in control on the final result. A useful way to describe that experience is to say that it helps individuals to work with less friction. Instead of switching constantly between separate tools, searching manually for wording, or starting everything from zero, you can rely on Copilot to support the first stages of thinking and creation. That can make everyday work feel smoother, especially for users who often deal with writing, planning, studying, or organizing content on their own. It is important to emphasize that personal productivity does not always mean small or unimportant tasks. Students, freelancers, teachers, content creators, and self-directed learners often handle complex work with a large team behind them. In that context, even modest time savings can become extremely valuable. That is one reason why M365 Copilot Personal Experience can make such a practical difference when used consistently and intelligently. But when you subscribe to Microsoft 365 Personal, you gain access to Copilot across Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and other apps. However, this plan includes a monthly limit of 60 Copilot credits. This is very important. These credits are essentially tokens that allow you to perform advanced AI-powered tasks beyond the standard and chat and text assistance. What counts as a credit? This is important. 1 credit equals 1 advanced AI action. So, for example, you can generate a full PowerPoint presentation, creating AI designed images in Designer, producing AI visuals in PowerPoint, or running a complex data analysis in Excel. Credits are not consumed by basic Copilot Chat. This is very important. So, summarizing text, rewriting paragraphs, brainstorming ideas, or drafting emails in a Word and Outlook remain unlimited. You can receive up to 60 credits per month. Credits reset automatically in the beginning of each billing cycle. So, you have 1 month, for example, 60 credits. If you spend, for example, 30 credits, then in another month you get another 60 credits, but that 30 will not continue, or you cannot extend that 30 in the next month. So unused credits do not roll over to the next month, as already explained. So what happens after you use all credits, for example, all 60 in 1 month? Then Copilot Chat remains available. You can still ask Copilot to edit text, summarize documents, or provide suggestions in Word, Excel, or PowerPoint and Outlook. Then the generative features stop working. You cannot create new AI images, generate large presentations, or run advanced data models until your credits reset. So there is no option to purchase an extra credit for personal plan. If you need more, you must upgrade to Copilot Pro or Premium, which removes strict limits and unlocks additional features. So there is no Pro, there is only Premium, as we know. So, for example, if you're creating a 50-slide presentation in PowerPoint, it is equal to 1 credit. But if you add 50 unique AI-generated images to those slides, it equals to 50 credits. Total is 51 credits, leaving you with only 9 for the rest of the month. So you must be very, very careful. If you only generate the text and structure without images, it costs just 1 credit. For example, if you're using Clipchamp or other apps, editing, merging, and exporting videos in Clipchamp does not consume credits, so it's free. Credits are only used when you ask Copilot to generate content, such as AI voice narration and or voice creation from text. So, key takeaways from this is you need to be careful, and M365 Personal Plan gives you a balanced experience. So unlimited Copilot Chat for everyday productivity, plus 60 credits monthly for advanced AI generation. For light to moderate use, this is sufficient. For heavy content creation or personal scenarios, you can upgrade to premium, and it will ensure that you won't run into limits. So, as you can see, there is some bad side for M365 Personal, but it's the only plan for one person. And if you're not a heavy user, this will be enough for you. So once again, if you created a 50 slide presentation in PowerPoint, it will cost you only 1 credit. But if you add more and more prompt, for example, add this, remove this, create image, generated image to those slides, it will cost you, for example, 50 credits for 50 unique AI generated images or anything else. So you must be aware of this limitation. If you're completely new to Microsoft ecosystem, the first practical step is creating a Microsoft account or signing in with one you already have. This personal account becomes your entry point for accessing Microsoft services, the web experience, and the Microsoft 365 environment connected to your subscription. Once you sign in, you can start exploring the available Copilot experience through the web interface, the Microsoft 365 Copilot app, and supported applications. If you're a beginner, this is very important because it creates a simple starting point. You don't need to understand every feature on day one. You just need a working account and the willingness to start exploring step by step. At the same time, it is helpful to set realistic expectations. Free or entry-level access does not always mean unlimited access to every capability. Depending on your plan, region, and current rollout, some features may be limited, some may work best in basic account or in certain apps, and some may require a Microsoft 365 subscription rather than only a basic account. So the smartest approach for us is not to start with assumptions. Start by signing in, exploring what is visible in your own experience, testing the core functions, and then deciding whether your current level is enough for the kind of work you want to do. As you explore your account for the first time, I recommended paying attention to the actual interface and available option instead of relying only on assumptions or marketing language. Look at what tools are visible, which app experiences are enabled, and what kind of prompts or suggested action appear in your environment. That first hands-on exploration is often the fastest way to understand what your account currently always allows you to do. It is also a good habit to start simple. Do not try to test every advanced features on the first day. Begin with basic chat, simple writing request, short summaries, and easy generation task. Once you become comfortable with those foundations, it becomes much easier to understand how the broader Copilot experience fits into your personal study or work routine. If you go to Microsoft.com and you choose the personal option, you can see, as you already know, these three offerings: M365 Personal, M365 Family, M365 Premium. I will now show you how can you create an account with M365 Personal. So, every offer or every country have this try free for 1 month. Let me click on try free for 1 month, and you can click on start your free trial. Then here you must create a Microsoft account, and after that it will ask you to add your credit card number. It will take $1 for your credit card and immediately return to your account just to confirm your identity for security purpose. And after that, this Microsoft account, or if you do not have Microsoft account, this subscription is connected to your Microsoft account, and that's it. Just create a new Microsoft account, log into your Microsoft account, and after that you can start your free trial for 1 month. But be aware if you don't want to pay this $9.99, after that to stop this subscription and you can cancel it. Easy as that. Thank you for watching, and now we know how to create. First, as I already told you, create your personal Microsoft account if you don't have, and finally after that you can activate this subscription, because this subscription is connected to your Microsoft account. Once you sign in, you can start exploring the available Copilot experience through the web interface, Microsoft 365 app, and supported applications. Let's move. Copilot Chat is the place where many users naturally begin, because it feels conversational, flexible, and approachable. You type a question or a request in ordinary language, and Copilot responds with suggestion, explanation, summaries, ideas, or drafted content. That simple interface is one of its greatest strengths. It lowers the barrier to entry for people who are not technical and allow beginners to start working with AI without learning complicated syntax, special commands, or advanced setup steps. In many cases, the first experience is what helps users realize that AI can be useful in a workday, not just in specialist technical fields. However, using Copilot Chat well is a skill. The best results usually come from users who know how to define a goal, provide enough context, and continue the conversation instead of stopping at the first reply. Good chat usage often includes follow-up questions such as make this shorter, explain this more simply, change the tone, turn this into bullet points, give me examples, or rewrite this for students. That is where the real value begins. Copilot is not only a tool for getting one answer, it is a tool for iterative improvement, and once beginners understand that, the chat experience becomes much more powerful and much more practical. Another reason chat is so important is that it teaches you how to think in terms of dialogue rather than one-time commands. The more you use it, the more you realize that good results often came from gradual refinement. You begin with a broad request, then narrow it, adjust it, and improve it through follow-up instructions. That conversational pattern is one of the core habits that makes AI assistants feel natural and generally useful. If you are a beginner, this is especially valuable because it removes the fear of needing the perfect first prompt. You don't need perfection at the start, you need clarity, patience, and a willingness to continue the interaction. Once you understand that, Copilot Chat stops feeling unpredictable and starts feeling like a practical workspace for thinking, rewriting, exploring, and improve ideas. Now that we covered the fundamentals, let us look at the broader M365 personal experience from a workload perspective. A personal user does not interact with Copilot only to ask isolated questions. In practice, the real experience is usually more connected. You may start by exploring an idea in chat, move that idea into a document, improve it in a Word, organize related information, and then build a presentation or message from the same core material. That cross-step support is one of the most useful aspects of the Microsoft 365 Copilot experience because it fits the way people actually work. The key is not to use every feature immediately, but to recognize how environments support a natural flow or work. First, start with a simple thing such as asking questions, summarizing information, rewriting text, or generating a first draft. Then gradually expand into more structured use cases such as planning, studying, note organization, and app-based content creation. Once you see Copilot not as a single feature, but as a part of a broader personal productivity environment, it becomes much easier to understand how it can save time, reduce friction, and support better daily habits. Another strength of the M365 personal experience is familiarity. Many users already know the Microsoft ecosystem through documents, presentations, email, and note-taking. When AI support appears inside those familiar patterns of work, adoption becomes easier. You're not learning an entirely foreign system from the beginning. Instead, you're enhancing a workload that you may already recognize, which makes the learning curve much more manageable. This is why I often encourage you as a student to think less about individual features and more about work patterns. Ask yourself where you usually lose time, where you feel stuck, and when you feel stuck, and when and where you repeat effort unnecessary. In many of those places, Copilot can provide support. Once you connect the technology to your actual habits, the experience becomes much more meaningful and much more easier to apply consistently. One of the most useful practical capabilities of Copilot is its ability to help you analyze information from the material you provide. That might include documents, notes, research material, draft content, or personal files. When you give a Copilot quality source material, you are effectively grounding the conversation. Instead of asking for a generic answer, you're giving the system a base to work from. That often leads to better summaries, more relevant insights, clearer comparisons, and more focused outputs. In a learning context, it can save a huge amount of time because it helps you move more quickly from raw information to usable understanding. But this is also where discipline matters. Copilot can assist with analysis, but you should never treat it as a substitute for judgment. A good user always checks whether the summary is accurate, whether the interpretation truly reflects the source, and whether anything important was missed. This is especially important in educational or professional content, where oversimplifications can lead to misunderstanding. So the right habit is to use Copilot as an analysis assistant, not as unquestioned authority. If you build that habit early, your results will be more accurate and your trust in the tool will be healthier and more realistic. In practical learning scenarios, this kind of analysis can be extremely helpful. For example, you may want to summarize a long article, compare two pieces of text, extract the most important ideas from study material, or identify the main argument in a document. Copilot can support all of these tasks much faster than a purely manual process, especially when the source material is already available and reasonably well structured. At the same time, the quality source material still matters. If the original content is weak, incomplete, or confusing, the output may still be weak, misleading. That is why good analysis begins before you even write the prompt. It begins when choosing the right source, understanding its purpose, and making sure you are asking Copilot to do something realistic with the material you provide. So welcome back, and now we will see some examples. How can we work with M365 Copilot? And what is extremely important, we will use information from our sources. And I prepare 5 examples. I don't know if we use them all, but this material will be available for you to download with this course from different links, of course. Here, as you can see, I'm using my M365 Copilot for business because M365 Personal is limited on credits, AI credits. So we have only 60 credits, but I want to show you the real examples. So, for example, if we go to our chat and, for example, we can use our chat in M365 Personal, we can use our own data to work or our sources. So, for example, you can, if you click on this X, choose to add work content or upload images and files or attach cloud files. I will now use one of my documents. Here, for example, let me see Microsoft AI Fundamentals AI. I will add this. As you can see, we are now adding this material as our source. And now I want to So, for example, imagine that this is a long study article about artificial intelligence and I want to understand it faster. We can provide that article to Copilot and ask it to summarize the key points in a simple language from a beginner. This helps you reduce reading time and quickly identify the most important concepts before going back to the original material for deeper study. So I will now copy from this sample prompt. Let me just copy it, and we will try to summarize this article. Let me paste it here, and this is our prompt. Summarize this article about artificial intelligence in a simple language for a beginner. Highlight the most important concept, explain them clearly, and keep that summary easy to review for study purposes. Let me hit on send, and as you can see, we are getting an output, a simple answer, and this is how can you summarize your text in the Copilot chat. As you can see, here is a simple beginner-friendly summary of our document, and as you can see, we are getting a long answer. What is AI? So this is a very, very long document, so the answer will be very long. Then, for example, we can use example number 2. Let us say that you have class notes from several lessons and I want to prepare for an exam. We can ask Copilot to compare the notes, identify the repeated items or themes, and highlight the most important topics we should review first. In this case, Copilot helps us to move from a large amount and scattered information to a more structured study plan. We can ask something like review these class notes from multiple lessons, identify main repeated themes, and show the most important topics I should revise for first exam preparation. Organize the answer in a clear study-friendly structure. So we can, for example, add or start a new chat. Let me hit start a new chat, and I can add more. For example, this, and let me find some different document. Let me see one of these. So we can add 2 files, as you can see. And now I will copy this example number 2. And as you can see, you can add 2 or more. Let's send this prompt. And we are trying, just to remind you, that we are asking for a review the class notes for multiple lessons, for multiple documents. As you can see, we're getting citations, where it is, from what file these citations has been taken, and finally we are getting a very, very long answer. And now we're getting, as you can see, exam preparation, and it is organized in a clear study-friendly structure. Another way, for example, is to imagine that we have 2 different documents about the same topic, such as 2 articles or 2 draft reports. We can ask Copilot to compare them and explain the main differences in tone, focus, and conclusions. This is especially useful if we want to understand which source is more detailed, which one is easier for beginners, or which one better supports your goal. Then the prompt will be something like compare these 2 documents on the same topic. Explain the main differences in tone, focus, depth, and conclusions. Also, tell me which document is better for a beginner and which one is more suitable for a deeper understanding. Then, for example, we can add another example. If you have meetings notes, personal notes, or project notes that feel messy and difficult to review, you can ask Copilot to extract the main access point or action points, unresolved questions, and important decisions from that material. This is a very practical example because it shows you how Copilot can brainstorm or transform your rough information into something more organized and usable. Analyze, for example, prompt will be something like analyze these notes and extract the key action items, important decisions, and unresolved questions. Present the result in a clean and organized format so I can review it quickly and use it for follow-up. And for example, example number 5 will be if you have something like, imagine that you are writing a lesson, an article, or a presentation and have collected sources from or this material from several places. You can also ask Copilot to identify the main themes across those materials and suggest a logical structure for your content. This is the case when Copilot is not only summarizing this information, but also help you to turn this source analysis into a clearer plan for creation. The sample will be something, the prompt will be something like review these source materials, identify the main themes across them, and suggest a logical structure for my lesson, article, or presentation. Organize the output into section with a clear flow from introduction to conclusion. Here, all of this you have, all this prompt you have here. So it will be available to you to try at your environment. And now, as you can see, we are getting these sources. So this is our sources, this is our citations. And for example, I can use this is a follow-up prompt. For example, make a one-page revision cheat sheet. And after some time, this AI 901 revision cheat sheet in one page will be shown here. And finally, every lesson will be here. So this is how can you work with your own documents. You can add a different kind of documents. You can add PowerPoint presentations, work, as you can see, from cloud. You can you can upload your own images and files, and that's it. Cloud files. You can see we have presentations in PowerPoint. We have different kind of Word documents, PDF files, Excel sheets, and so on and so forth. You can add all of this and ask Copilot to create a different kind of prompts. You can ask them to summarize, review, compare, analyze, or simply review these files. So this is how can you work once again with your own information or documents from your own source. But let's learn how to create drafts, documents, and pictures. One of the most immediate benefits of Copilot is how much easier can make the first step of creation. Many people do not struggle with editing, they struggle with starting. Copilot can reduce that friction by helping you build a first draft for a document, email, lesson plan, article, presentation, outline, description, or structure idea list. That first version may not be perfect, but it gives you something to react, to improve and shape. In practical terms, you can save time, reduce mental resistance, and help you move forward faster when you would otherwise stay stuck at the blank page, for example. Creation is not only about text. In modern Copilot experiences, users may also encounter support for visual and presentation-oriented outputs, depending on the scenario and app. The important principle for beginners is to think clearly before they generate. What exactly I'm trying to create? Who is this for? What tone, structure, or style should it have? The more clearly you define those elements, the more useful output will be. Microsoft also supports AI-assisted image creation in the Copilot experience, and the platform increasingly connects content generation across chat, apps, and file-based workflows. But regardless of the medium, your review and final judgment remain essential. A very practical way to work with Copilot for structure before asking for polish. For example, you can first create an outline, a list of taking points, or a first draft with clear sections. After that, you can ask for refinement, better tone, stronger flow, or adaptation for a specific audience. This two-step approach often produce much better content than asking for a perfect final result or a single result. It is also useful to remember that speed should support quality, not replace it. Just because Copilot can generate something quickly does not mean that the first version is the best version. The real advantage is that you can move faster into editing and improving stage. That is where your expertise, judgment, and understanding of the audience become especially important. So, first, there is a two-step creation, as you can see. For example, you can generate a structure, request an outline or the first draft, define sections and taking points, set initial direction, scope. Then you can refine, you can add or ask for Copilot to change tone, flow, clarity, adapt for specific audience, review with your own expertise. And we have some sample prompt here, as you can see. Now let's go to M365 and let's see how can we use some of these examples. If you go back to our M365 Personal or any other app, so if you're using Personal M365 account, just log in to this app on your Windows machine or download it, and you will be able to work with this chat. As you can see, if I scroll down, for example, and go to create option, you have option to create an image, PowerPoint, Word, Excel, video, demographic, or create a story. But if we go to a new chat, and for example, if we using our example to draft, for example, I provided two examples for draft, document, and picture. I will use draft 1, document example 1, and picture example 1, just to show you how can you work with this kind of prompts. All of this can be found and download as a material, so you can try on your own. Let's try draft example 1. So imagine that you want to create a first draft for a course introduction. You know the topic, but you don't want to start from a blank page. Copilot can help you generate a clean opening draft that you can later refine in your own tone and style. For example, let me copy this first example. We will use this. Let me just copy this prompt. And so as you can see, we are not using any source material from our machine or our cloud or OneDrive, and I want to write a professional first draft for a course introduction about Microsoft Copilot for beginners. Keep the tone clear, friendly, and suitable for video training. Let me send this prompt and let's see what are we getting. As you can see, we are getting a clear course introduction, Microsoft Copilot for beginners. So our example number 1 is, just to remind you, that we want to create a first draft for a course introduction. And we are getting the whole answer, as you can see, just from one prompt. But in this prompt, we specify that we want to, what are we want to create for audience, our beginners, and we are telling the Copilot that we want that our tone we want that our tone must be clear, friendly, and suitable for video training. And now I can use these follow-ups to, for example, explain how Copilot integrates with Microsoft 365, and you can continue chat and go even more with this in your Copilot. Then you can also create a document. So imagine that you need to create a complete document, such as a short guide, study handout, or simple report. Copilot also can help you to structure the document, define the sections, and draft the content easier. So I will now stop this answer and let me copy our document example. So this is our prompt, and I will paste it into the same chat. You can open a new chat if you want, and here I want to create a beginner-friendly document called How to Start Using Microsoft Copilot. Include an introduction, key benefits, common use cases, and short conclusion. Let's send this prompt and let's see what outputs are we getting. So as you can see, we're getting exactly what we want, key benefits. Now we want common use cases, and finally short with examples, of course, and conclusion. So this is how can you create a document, for example. Of course, you can export this to Word, but let's go to our picture example. So imagine that you want to create a visual for a presentation, lesson, or course thumbnail. Copilot can help you describe the image clearly so that the generated result is closer to your real idea. Let me copy this example for picture, this prompt, and we will see how can we create how can we create a simple picture using just one simple prompt. Create an image of a modern digital workspace with a laptop, notes, and AI-inspired visual elements. The style should be clean, professional, and suitable for a course presentation about Microsoft Copilot. Let's send this prompt, and after some time, Copilot will start creating an image. And of course, we can see the result very, very fast. So this is how can you create, how can you draft, create a document, or create a picture. And here it is. Our picture is showing up here, and you can then use this to to get even more. Here it is. Our picture is almost ready. And if we click on this picture, you can download this picture, or you can even use it, change it, or add more command. As you can see, and that's it. This is how can you work with your, let's download this photo, for example. You can choose PNG, JPEG, or PDF. I will download as PNG. So this is how can you create your pictures, how can you draft, how can you create documents, and how can you create a picture from simple prompts. Now it's time to know what is a prompt and prompt engineering. In the previous chapter, I already show you what is a prompt and what can we do with prompts. Now it's time to get to know what is a prompt and prompt engineering. Well, a prompt is simply, as you can see, as you already saw, the instructions that you give a Copilot or to Copilot, but the simple definition is more important than it may seem at first. Every useful result starts with a prompt, and the quality of the prompt shapes the quality of the answer. A prompt can be a direct question, a task description, a role assignment, or a combination of all three. For example, you might ask Copilot to explain a topic for beginners, summarize a long paragraph, create a professional email, or turn rough notes into a clean lesson outline. In each case, the prompt acts as a starting blueprint for what the system will try to produce. Prompt engineering is the practice of improving that blueprint so that the result becomes more accurate, more useful, and more aligned with your intention. This does not mean writing complicated technical commands. In many cases, it simply means being more deliberate. Define the topic, the goal, the audience, the tone, the structure, and the level of detail. If needed, add constraints such as word length, format style, or examples. Once beginners understand this, they stop seeing prompting as a random experiment and start using it as a practical communication skill. That shift is one of the most important learning moments in any Copilot course. One reason prompting matters so much is that Copilot cannot read your full intention unless you express it. You may know exactly what kind of answer you want it in your mind, but the system only sees the words you actually provide. That means small improvement in phrasing can produce much better responses. Even adding a target audience or a desired tone can simplify and improve the usefulness of the result. This is why prompt engineering should not be as something advanced or technical that only specialists need. In reality, it is a practical skill for everyday users. The better you get at expressing your request clearly, the better Copilot can support your work. That makes prompting one of the most transferable and valuable habits that you can build across the entire M365 Copilot experience. So, we need a topic, what is about, we need a clear goal, what do you need, then the audience, who is it for, then we need a tone, how should it sound, we need a structure, what format, and constraints, length, style, limits. So, small improvements after in phrasing produce much better responses. Of course, you can refine it after you getting an answer. Even adding a target audience or tone can significantly improve usefulness. So in previous chapters, we already learned how can we create a great prompt or better prompt. Now in the next lesson, let's learn how to write a simple or professional prompt. If you want a simple formula for writing better prompts, think in terms of role, task, audience, and outputs. You need to tell Copilot what role it should take, what exactly it needs to do, who that content is for, and what kind of response you want. For example, instead of saying write something about Microsoft Copilot, you might say act as a professional instructor, explain Microsoft Copilot to beginners, keep the tone clear and friendly, and organize it into 3 practical sections. That kind of prompt gives structure to the request and usually leads to far better result. Professional prompts are necessarily long, but they are intentional. They set expectations clearly and reduce ambiguity. A strong prompt then often includes the desired tone, the audience level, the format, and the exact purpose of the output. This is what separates random usage from strategic usage. Once students become to write prompts with intention, they notice that the quality of responses improves significantly. They also become faster at refining outputs because they understand how to guide the system instead of hoping that the first answer will magically be perfect. Another useful habit is to include constraints where they matter. If you want the answer to be short, say that. If you want it to sound professional, say that. If you want it structured in sections, bullet points, or a teaching format, include that as a part of the prompt. These small details reduce ambiguity and help Copilot move closer to the kind of the result you actually want to use. Over time, writing strong prompts become less about memorizing formulas and more about understanding communications. You begin to anticipate what kind of context is missing, what kind of structure will help, and what kind of follow-up instructions will improve the result. This is why prompt writing is such an important foundation. It improves everything else you do with Copilot. At this point, we already have become familiar with the prompt and what the prompt is. Now it is time to become familiar with prompt structure. In other words, we are moving from the basic idea of prompting into practical questions, or how to build prompts more clearly and more effectively. This is an important step because once you understand your structure, you stop writing a random request and start writing prompts and purpose. Here, I will give you some examples. This example will be also added to the material of this course that you can download. But before that, let's see a difference between simple and professional prompts, as I already mentioned. In this table, we have some criteria like clarity, audience, tone, structure, context, output controls, and best use. You have simple prompts and professional prompts. We have, for example, short but too general, and professional force clarity, specific and focused. We have audience often not defined in the simple prompts and clearly defined in professional prompt. Tone is very and structure is very important. Context, of course, and that's it. And we have some different techniques. This is just one of few techniques. For example, we have zero-shot prompts. You can ask directly without examples. You have, for example, explain the difference between Copilot and the traditional search engine in simple terms. We have one-shot prompt technique. This provides one example to guide style. For example, here is an example style. You need to add an example. Now explain the Copilot the same way. And we have something called chain of thought. Ask for a step-by-step reasoning. You need to add something like think through the process step-by-step, goal, audience, format, tone. This is just a few prompt techniques that you can use. We have also some techniques called React or RAACT, which you can find more about it. But my intention for this lesson is just to give you some simple examples, and now we will go to our M365 app and try one of these prompts. So let's try simple and professional prompt. You can, for example, as I already mentioned, I will provide this material for you. We have some simple prompts examples like summarize this text. Why it is simple? The request is short and direct, but it does not define audience, tone, output, or format. But if you want to see, let me just copy this. We will now copy this just to show you different, or that you can see difference. Exactly the same professional prompt is, we can say, professional example. You have this also explanation, so I will paste it here, and you can see the first prompt is simple. Why it is simple? This request is a short and direct, but it does not define audience, tone, and format output. But if you see exactly the same intention, something like professional prompt will be like this: summarize this text for beginners in a clear and simple language, organize the answer into 3 short sections, and end with the most important takeaways. In this professional prompt, you can see that we have clear tone, intention, structure, and desired outcome. So this is why this prompt is professional. Of course, you can add some more examples. You have this example as a simple prompt number 2 in your document. For example, write an email about the meeting if you have some important meeting. This is simple because the task is clear, but prompt still leaves many details open, such as tone, length, and purpose. On the other hand, if you want a professional prompt on the same example about this email about the meeting, you will write something like, write a professional follow-up email after a project meeting, keep the tone polite and confident, summarize the key discussion points, and include 3 next steps in bullet points. This is professional because this version defines the purpose, tone, content focus, and clear format. On the other hand, we have something, as I already mentioned, called zero-shot prompt. This prompt asks for a, if you want, for example, let me just delete this, and we will use our example prompt for a zero-shot prompt. Let me find this prompt. I will copy now this prompt here, and as you can see, the prompt is explain the difference between Microsoft Copilot and a traditional search engine in a simple terms for a beginner. I will click on send this prompt, and now we will get our answer. Here is a simple beginner friendly explanation, and you can see the difference between Microsoft Copilot versus traditional search engine. And this is called zero-shot prompt. This is why it is zero-shot prompt. This prompt asks for a result directly without giving any example list. As you can see, this is our answer. We have this table and final thought. Of course, you can then continue with this follow-up prompt, but let's learn what is one-shot prompt. I will now use this example for one-shot prompt. As you can see, we will now paste this to our chat, and the prompt is here is an example of the style I want. Cloud computing is the delivery of computing service over the internet in a simple practical terms. Now explain Microsoft Copilot in the same style for a beginner. Let's send this prompt, and while we are waiting our response, zero-shot prompt is the prompt that asks for a result directly without, one-shot prompt is the prompt that includes one example that guides the style of the answer. As you can see, that is explaining in only one sentence. And then the one of the most used style or prompting style is something called chain of thought. Let's try that version. I will now copy this example, and then we will explain. I will explain you why the name of this is chain of thought, because the prompt is ask for a step-by-step reasoning structure to guide the explanation. For example, our example chain of thought style prompt is explain how a beginner should write a strong prompt for Microsoft Copilot. Think through the process step by step, starting with the goal, then audience, then format, and finally the tone. Of course, if you click here, you can choose think deeper, and this is one of the prompts technique that will be used for this think deeper. So now our Copilot is using this step-by-step reasoning to get structure explanation, to guide the explanation, of course. And finally, as you can see, this is our explanation. And this final tip will conclude this lesson. As you can see, that you don't need perfect prompts. Start simple, then adjust and improve. Copilot works best when you guide it clearly, and a small improvement in your prompt can lead to much better result. So this is how can you work, and this is the difference between simple prompts and professional prompt, and now you know how to write a better prompts, of course. Now let's move on to the next lesson. Copilot memory can be understood as the system ability to retain useful context, preferences, or patterns that make future interactions more relevant and more personalized. For the user, this can create a smoother experience because it reduces repeated explanations and helps the system respond in a way that better reflects your usual style or needs. For example, if you consistently prefer a certain tone, structure, or type of output, memory-related capabilities can help support continuity across your interactions. But memory should always be understood with balance. It is helpful, but it does not eliminate the need for clear instruction and review. So if you are just beginning with Copilot, sometimes you must assume that if the system remembers something, then the answer will automatically be correct or perfectly aligned. And that is not a safe assumption. The better approach is to treat or memory as a support for continuity, not as a replacement for precision. You still need to define your task clearly, review what is generated, and adjust when needed. This is how you stay in control while still benefiting from a more personalized AI experience. For many users, memory becomes valuable because it reduces repetition and helps the experience for more continuous over time. If the system can retain useful context, it may become easier to keep a consistent tone, continue similar tasks, or avoid re-explanation the same preferences again and again. Then can make the workflow feel more natural, especially for people who use Copilot frequently for related types of work. At the same time, users should stay thoughtful about what kind of information they rely on memory to handle. The smartest approach is to memory to support convenience and continuity, while providing direct instructions when the task is important or specific. In that balance, memory becomes a useful enhancement rather than something that creates overconfidence. Well, if you go back to our M365 Copilot app, or if you're using cloud or in your browser, you can set up your Copilot memory, for example. So as I already mentioned, this is some system ability to retain useful context preferences. So if I, for example, go onto these three dots and click on settings, I can see some chat settings. And if I go to personalization, you can add something called custom instructions, work profile, save memories, or chat history. For all of these three, only work profile, you can toggle this switch on and off. If you toggle this to off, then you can choose to or allow Copilot to remember details to provide better responses. If I click for manage save memories, I can see all my memories that I'm using to Copilot to remember this. Then I have also something called custom instructions. If I click on custom instructions, here you can add the details for your Copilot to know about you and specify how you would like to format its responses. For example, you can use one of these predefined options. For example, you can add give honest feedback here, or highlight the decisions in meeting notes. Then, for example, when you're searching or summarizing prioritized content for or involving my manager, this includes mail and meeting notes. So use plain language that is easy to understand, and these custom instructions will define how your Copilot and how answer or outputs will be when you add some prompt. I will not save these instructions, but just for this lesson, I will, for example, show you that I can add something like prompt, something like remember that I'm a Rams fan, for example, and if I click on enter, you will see that after some time you can see that memory is saved. Okay, I'm getting responses on Serbian, but you can see how can you save your memory, and I can manage my memories. You can see I am the fan of Los Angeles Rams. So you can add, for example, whatever you want. For example, you can add, remember that I want that my responses be on your natural language, for example, English, Serbian, French, German, or something else. Or you can add something, whatever you want to remember. So this is how can you use Copilot memory, how to work with. Now you can go to memory updates and delete this memory, but I will leave it as it is. Pages and notebooks are important because they represent a move beyond simple one question or one answer interaction. Pages can be understood as a working space where useful output from chat becomes something you can continue shaping, editing, and organizing instead of letting a valuable answer disappear in conversational thread. You can turn it into material that is easier to develop. This is especially useful for users who are creating outlines, summaries, lesson materials, planning, documents, or any kind of evolving content that needs refinement over time. On the other hand, notebooks that are not available in M365 Personal, but we will just mention them, extend that idea by creating a focused AI workspace around a collection of relevant material. According to Microsoft, Copilot notebooks are designed to bring together chats, files, pages, notes, and other references so Copilot can provide focused answer. Instead, DEMS and help draft content based on that collected contents. The practical difference is simple. Pages help you develop a piece of content, while notebooks help you organize and reason across a broader set of materials connected to a topic or project. That makes them especially useful for study, researching, planning, and multi-step content work. This becomes especially useful when your work is not finished in a single chat session. Many real tasks the same. You may collect information one day, shape it in the next day, and refine it later. Pages and notebooks support that more realistic patterns of work because they help preserve useful materials and make it easier to return to an idea without standing or starting over from beginning. For you as a student and if you are a creator, this also supports deeper focus. Instead of scattering ideas across separate tools and disconnected conversations, you can keep relevant materials closer together and work in a more organized way. That makes it easier to think clearly, maintain momentum, and turn rough material into something more polished and useful over time. So if you're wondering when do you want to use pages and when do you want to use notebooks, first, pages, you can use pages when you want to develop a lesson plan, refine a document draft, or building presentation content. Then notebooks is premium feature, but you can only use this when you want to collect research materials, prepare for an exam, or multi-day project organization. So let's hop to our app and see how can we work with pages. If you go back to our M365 app, so once again I'm using my business M365 because I don't have AI credits for M365 Personal. So for the sake of this course and these demonstrations, I need to use my working environment. So if you don't have this work IQ and web option, just use your environment M365 Personal. So here I want to show you pages because notebooks are not available. I have notebooks here, but it is not available in M365 Personal. Every time you get a response, you have something here, these instructions, these additional options. You can copy your response, you can like or dislike this answer, you can share this prompt or copy your response, then you can edit in pages and, for example, read aloud and export to Word. If I click edit in pages, you can see that we are getting some kind of canvas. And here I can add more about, I can add a different, I can even refine this answer. I can, as you can see, insert some different options, create a table, checklist, bulleted number. So every response, every output, you can edit in Pages. Pages is some kind of canvas that you can even do some kind of refinement. So you can use different options. You can add image, record video, add communications with a person, emoji picker, label. You can add something like templates. As you can see, text. You can even add textiles, add some different tables, as you can see, and now you can add your own table and so on and so forth. Then you can back to previous version. For example, I can do this is something like undo, for example. Then I can create a document or PDF file. I can share this. Also, I can add these pages to notebook. This is, as I already mentioned, a premium feature, notebooks, and that's it. Or I can refine some different I can add more if I want. Let me just type something about this prompt. For example, I can ask Copilot to rewrite this again, for example, and finally you can see that every section, every part of this pages, you can even more refine, more you can add even more, as you can see, more options, more anything you want. You can see you can even drag this up or down. Simple. This is some kind of canvas that you can work with your response from your Copilot. And finally, if I click here, you can see that you can adjust this content, add more details, make it shorter, change to an email, change to a blog post, for example. Then here you can change a tone. You can, for example, click on write professional, or you can even choose a style page. You can add emojis, for example. Let's add an emoji, and let's see what Copilot can do with these pages. So you can try this on your own environment. As you can see, we're just adding different kind of emojis. As you can see, now we have emoji here, emoji there, and this is some kind of you can edit it in real time, as you can see, and that's it. Or you can simply add to write professional or something else, and that's it. You can play around with these prompts, with these responses from your prompts, and use pages for different purpose. Of course, you can share it with another user and so on. So as you can see, this is how can it edit in real time, and then you can refine it even more, and you can play around with this. The best part is that if you go to copilot.microsoft.com, you can practice for free there, and then any pages that you can create here you can copy then there, and so on and so forth, and that's it. This is how can you work with a simple pages. And finally, I will now close my page, and that's it. All of your pages can be found in search, and you can continue to work with your pages. So this is the difference between pages and notebooks. In the next chapter we will talk about agents, but I will not use agents in Copilot, Personal because we don't have access with this experience. But it is good to know what are agents. Well, if you ask yourself why this instructor talks about agents, AICopilot Personal, if I can create an agent, yes, this is true, but you can use different agents even in personal account. So what are agents in Copilot? Agents are one of the most interesting developments in the Copilot ecosystem because they move the experience from general assistant toward more specialized task support. Instead of starting every request from zero in a general chat, agents can be designed around certain type of work, such as drafting, analysis, file creation, or structured assistance in a specific app experience. This makes the interaction feel more focused and often more useful, especially when users already know the kind of outcome they want. Microsoft Support describes Word, Excel, and PowerPoint agents as AI-powered tools that helps you create files by describing what they need, including for Microsoft 365 Personal and Family users. This is a very practical way to explain agents for us. You can think of them as a smart specialist that help you turn natural language intent into usable outputs. However, even when agents become more capable, the user still remains responsible for direction, validation, and final review. The more powerful the system becomes, the more important it is to stay actively involved in judging the result. What makes agents especially interesting is that they represent a shift from general AI assistant toward more practical and powerful user. That means that experience may feel less like talking about to a general chatbot and more like working with a focused assistant designed to help with a specific kind of outputs. Still, the same principle remains true. Specialization does not remove responsibility. Even when an agent is optimized for a certain kind of task, you still need to review the result carefully and decide whether it's truly fits your purpose. The better the tool becomes, the more important your judgment becomes as well. When we talk especially about pre-built agents that we can use in Microsoft 365 Personal experience, the most relevant examples currently described by Microsoft that are Word agent, Excel agent, and PowerPoint agent. Also, if you ask Microsoft support or check their pages, FAQ, that explain that these agents are available in Microsoft 365 users, including personal and family plans, and they will help you as a user to create files simply by describing what you need. Of course, you must pay attention that you have only 60 AI credits in personal plan. In practical terms, the Word agent helps you create and organize documents, the Excel agent helps you build spreadsheet and work with structured information, and the PowerPoint agent helps you generate presentations for your ideas or source content. This is a very useful starting point because it shows that pre-built agents in the personal experience are focused on real productivity tasks inside familiar Microsoft apps rather than on abstract AI concept. In addition to app-focused agents such as Word, Excel, and PowerPoint agents, Microsoft also offers agents like Prompt Coach in the broader Microsoft 365 Copilot system. However, availability can depend on plan, rollout, and environment, so personal users should always verify what is currently available in their own experience. I will now show you how can you work with Prompt Coach because this is available in my plan, of course. So you need to see, you need to realize that we have general chat and we have specialized agents, even in personal M365 offer. You can use general chat, as you can see, to broad flexible assistance. It is great for brainstorming, answer questions about any topic, starting point for exploration. Then we have special agents. It is focused on specific tasks, optimized for file creation, more purposeful execution, and feels like a dedicated assistant. If we go back to our M365 Copilot, If I click on Prompt Coach, here only Prompt Coach is available to us as this agent that we can use, for example. And then you can, for example, see these sample prompts, and if I click here, you can see different prompts, of course. Let's try some of these examples. I want to write a better prompt for my project. Can you help me? Let's send this prompt, and we are getting an answer. It will be glad to help, and you can see what are we getting. So with the help of this prompt coach agent, we're getting a response and simple formula for a strong prompt. We need to see that a good prompt usually answers 5 things: role, goal, context, constraints, audience, or use. As you can see, we already learned about this, and you are getting a different responses. Explain AI, this is a weak prompt, and we have improved prompt. So with the help of our agent, we can improve our prompt. And let's improve our prompt. You need to paste our current prompt, and it will help your prompt. You need to add what your project is about, what do you want to AI to produce, text, explanation, script, image. Point out what is unclear or rewrite your prompt to a stronger version or something else. If I, for example, use one of these sample prompts, let's use just to find this draft, for example, one write a professional first draft prompt. Let's try to add this to our prompt coach. Here is my current prompt. And let's hit on send this prompt. And now prompt coach will analyze this prompt. As you can see, our prompt already includes clear task, topic, tone guidance, medium. That's a solid foundation. What is missing? You're missing a role, audience detail, line structure, purpose. And this is how our improved prompt will look like. As you can see, with the use of prompt coach, with the use of agents, we're getting a professional prompt, act as a friendly professional instructor. So this is a role. Write a first draft script for a video course introduction for Microsoft about Microsoft Copilot, and so on and so forth. So you can play around with your prompt coach, and you can even add some more follow-up prompts, and you can refine your prompt even more further. So with a simple prompt, you can define a mega professional prompt using only prompt coach. So if you want to learn more about agents, there is a separate course on my YouTube channel that is called Microsoft Copilot from Zero to Agent. And for this course, knowing about prompt coach and Word, Excel, and PowerPoint agent are more than enough. Copilot is not limited to individual Microsoft 360 apps. It can also be used through standalone entry points such as Microsoft 365 Copilot app and broader chat experiences. This is important because many users do not begin with a document, spreadsheet, or slide deck. They begin with a question, a rough idea, a problem to solve, or a task that they want to think through. In those moments, a standalone Copilot experience is often the most natural place to start. It allows you to explore the problem, collect your thinking, and create a direction before you move into a specific application. If you're using Microsoft 365 Personal, you can also sign in the Microsoft 365 Copilot app on Windows with your app personal account. In that experience, you can access Copilot Chat and use it as a standalone starting point for brainstorming, summarizing, exploring ideas, and preparing early stage content before moving into a specific Microsoft 365 app. For example, imagine that you are preparing a short lesson or presentation and you want to collect your thoughts before opening Word or PowerPoint. You can start in a Microsoft 365 app on Windows, open Copilot Chat, and ask it to help you brainstorm this topic. Organize the main ideas and suggest a simple structure that allows you to begin in a light way using chat as your thinking space before move into production or creating a slide creation. For example, some simple prompt will be, I'm preparing a short beginner-friendly lesson about Microsoft Copilot. Help me brainstorm the topic, identify the main ideas I should cover, and create a simple structure that I can later turn in a Word document or PowerPoint presentation. So this is the whole presentation or demonstration in this course I'm using with this M365 app. If you go to our Windows and type, for example, Copilot, you will get this Microsoft 365 Copilot. If you're using Mac or something else, go to App Store and download M365 Copilot app for macOS. So you can use, as you can see, I'm using M365 business standard with full Copilot license because I don't have any credits in my personal subscription. And of course, if you have your Word document here, go to your account and log in with your personal account, and you will get the Copilot in your desktop or laptop application, not only in your M365 Copilot app for Windows, for example, or macOS. So you can use a Copilot apps, as already mentioned, for brainstorming, researching, summarization, note preparation, and early stage drafting, and then continue the detailed work in the app best suited for this task. So for example, if you go here, you can check different applications. As you can see, if I click here, this is all applications that I have with this plan. And in the personal plan, we will only have Outlook, Word, Excel, OneDrive, Teams, and PowerPoint, OneNote, and Clipchamp. So that means that our chat becomes more practical, or the place where thinking begins, while Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook becomes the place where the output is refined. So for example, you can add here, start a new chat, and start to add a prompt, something like write a professional document for that, for example, Microsoft Copilot. And then you can go to Microsoft Copilot apps, for example, Word, and then you can refine that document and you can finalize that document, or you can follow the early stages of work and so on. So Copilot becomes far easier to integrate into everyday productivity. This approach is especially useful. For example, you can create here or Copilot Chat, then shape this document, then finalize it through your Microsoft M365 Word app application. This approach is especially useful for people who like to think first before committing to a final format. In a standalone Copilot space, you can explore possibilities without worrying yet about perfect formatting, layout, or final delivery. That gives you a room to brainstorm questions, compare, and test ideas before you decide how the final output should look like inside Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or Outlook. It also supports a healthier workflow because it separates exploration from final production. First you think, then you shape, then you finalize. That's it. Many users become more effective once they stop expecting one screen or one prompt to do everything at once. So, just to summarize, standalone Copilot apps help you create that useful separation between idea and execution. So, in the next couple of chapters, we will use how can you use Copilot in Word, for example, Excel, and so on. Let's move on to more practical. Copilot in Word is one of the most natural and powerful use cases for beginners, because writing is one of the most common situations when people feel friction. Many users know roughly what they want to say, but they struggle to start, to organize the content, or improve rough wording. Copilot can help you reduce that friction by generating a first draft, rewriting existing text, shortening content, explaining these sections, changing tone, and improving clarity. This makes Word a very practical place to experience how AI can accelerate real work without replacing your own ideas. This is a key lesson if you are a beginner and if you want to learn Copilot and Word, and this should be treated as a writing partner, not an autopilot. The best results usually come when you provide a clear instruction. Read the output carefully, improve that was generated or what was generated, and then ask for targeted refinements. In other words, you should collaborate with it. Microsoft has also emphasized newer agentic capabilities in Word that can take more direct action inside documents, helping users move faster from first draft to refine the result while still keeping control. So, real skill is not just knowing about Copilot exists in Word, but learning how to direct it well and review its responsibility. Another reason Word is such a strong place to learn Copilot is that writing makes improvement easy to see. You can compare the rough paragraph with a refined version, observe how tone changes, and notice how structure becomes clearer after a better prompt. That visible difference helps beginners understand the value of guidance, iteration, and revision in a very direct way. It is also a very good environment for learning how to balance speed and authorship. Copilot can help you generate and improve language quickly, but the final voice, message, and intentions should still belong to you. When beginners understand this balance, or users, they become much more comfortable using Copilot without feeling that they are losing ownership of their work. So let's see how can we work in Word. So now if you go to word.cloud.microsoft, you'll see that we can work with Word directly in this application. I'm using cloud options because I like to work and keep my desktop or laptop clean. You can upload your own file. First you must, of course, be signed in with your credentials, and then we can go to, for example, you can upload your own file and start working, or let's create a blank new file. And here it is. We are now in Microsoft Word, as you can see, and this is our assistant, this is our Copilot. Here you can describe what do you like to draft with Copilot, for example. You can add some of your content, or for example close Copilot if you want. Also you can track this navigation pane and track whatever you want. Now if I open a Copilot in Word, you can see that I'm getting this option to create something new. Of course, once again, I'm using M365 for for business premium with full Copilot license, because I don't have any AI credits in personal account. But exactly the same you can do with your personal experience. And now there is an option to add your own document, just like in M365 Chat, then you can see that you can use different agents. I don't want to use any agents. I can, for example, start dictations or describe what I want to do. If you don't have enough credits, you can use chat only. So you can chat with your Copilot and nothing will change in this canvas. But I want to show you how can we work directly and create a document. First, I created here 5 example prompts. I will use a Copilot to create a first draft from a simple idea. For example, if you need to write a course introduction, a short article, or a professional document, Copilot will help you to move from a blank page to a structured starting point much faster. So let me copy this first example prompt here in our chat box, and here is our first prompt. Create a first draft for a course introduction about Microsoft Copilot for beginners. Keep the tone professional, clear and suitable for a training video. Let me send this prompt, and after some time you will see that Microsoft are starting to work and is starting to draft our document, as you can see. So be very aware if you start to work with this prompt. This prompt will take one of those credits from your AI credits. If you satisfy, you can clear done or undo. I will click on done. Then you are getting here the response that Copilot added a first draft course introduction and what is included. And now if you want, you can even go use this follow-up prompts. For example, if you want to make it warmer and more engaging, you can use this first prompt. Make it shorter and more dynamic, or you can expand a full script. I want to use example number 2. So we want to use Copilot in Word to rewrite existing text in a better tone or style. This is very useful when you already have some kind of content, but you want it to sound more professional, simple, clearer, or more suitable for beginners. So we will use our second sample prompt, and let me just copy this prompt and paste it here. So once again, we want to rewrite this paragraph in a clear and more professional tone. Keep it easy to understand for beginners and improve the flow of the text. You can check your paragraph if you want. And I'm getting my responses in Serbian, so I can, for example, check this. And now we have our paragraph, and now it will rewrite this paragraph. Of course, this rewriting will be another additional AI credit from your account. Let's use it as a done. Also, let's use our third prompt. I will now use Copilot in Word to expand short content into more detailed explanation. This is if you want to have only a few notes or a brief paragraph. Copilot can help you turn that into a fuller section with better flow or more complete ideas. You can also, so let me now copy our third prompt and paste it here. Our third prompt is expand these short notes into a detailed explanation for beginners, keep the structure logical and clarity, and make the text suitable for course material. Let me just take again the same paragraph and let me send this prompt. And we are waiting for our result. So as you can see, you can refine your existing result and you can expand or do whatever you want. You can also undo this. Let me click on done, and now I want to use, for example, we can now use a Copilot word to summarize long content. This is especially helpful when you're reviewing a longer document and want to quickly understand the key point, the main message, or the most important takeaways. So we can use something like summarize command. Let me just copy this fourth prompt, and I will paste it here. And you can summarize this document and highlight the key points, the main message, and the most important takeaways. Keep the summary clear and ready to review. Let's send this prompt. And this is, of course, on Serbian, so you can talk with your Copilot. Let me just add, can you talk in English, please? And now you are getting an answer in English. So now we have an offer to rewrite an existing document in more natural English, make it sound more professional, or adapt it to video narration. But now I want to use example number 5. We can now use Copilot Word to improve the structure of the document. For example, we can ask it to reorganize messy notes into sections, suggest better headings, or turn rough ideas into more logical and readable format. So let me copy once again this example number 5, and I will copy this here, and we can use the organize these notes into a well-structured document with a clear sections and better headings, made the connect more logical and readable for the beginner audience. I want to organize this document. For example, we don't have any notes, so you can change your, let's see, what are we getting? And our Copilot is working. So once again, every this follow-up prompt, when you change in directly your text or do something like summarize, organize, expand, and so on, will cost you 1 AI credit. As you can see, Microsoft Copilot Word agent is now changing the structure of this text, and you can see how it works. Let me keep on done. And now this is the 5 steps that I want to show you. The most important thing is that, for example, if you're not satisfied with this answer, I can, for example, highlight this and go here. Sorry, and use my right click and edit this with Copilot. And you can use auto rewrite, make it shorter, structure, and refine. Let's use auto rewrite, for example. And now Copilot will rewrite this introduction, and this will once again cost you another AI credit. And you can go and play around with this, but for personal plan, 60 credits is not enough for working with Microsoft Copilot in Word, for example. And now the best thing is that you can, for example, that you can ask Copilot to explain what Copilot Word can do, and you will get an answer. What can you do with Copilot? As you can see, Copilot can draft a new content, for example, course introduction, a report, proposal, professional email, training guide, rewrite existing text. You can use it to make text clearer, shorter, more professional, more formal, easier for beginners to understand, summarize content. Copilot can use this to understand reports, notes, draft, long drafts, training materials, so on, generate ideas and outlines, expand or simplify text, help you improve flow and readability. And this is what you can do with your Copilot. And once that you finish your AI with your AI credits, you can simply start and chat with your Copilot. And for example, we can use this text and, for example, use this once again, this introduction paragraph, and try to, can you expand this introduction to 2 more paragraphs. This will also cost you 1 AI credit. So once again, we are using Microsoft 365 Business just for the sake of the labs. If you're working with M365 Personal, I just want to show you what can you do with your agents in Word, for example. And you can go and play around with this. Of course, once that you're happy, you can see that this is saved in your cloud, in your OneDrive, and here you can, for example, change the file name, or simply you can ask Copilot even for that, or you can go and create a copy and download this copy to your local machine and continue working on your desktop. So this was just a simple explanation of what we can do with the Word in our what we can do with Copilot in Word. Let me just show you that we can even use, for example, this paragraph to create a table, for example. And you can see that it's asking us how create a table for Microsoft Graph Copilot, for example, for Copilot, for example, and now this paragraph will be turned into table, as you can see. So you can do whatever you want, create a table, summarizing text as I already told you, and you can track this even here live. Let me just, here this is our table, and once again we can check our table, and you can also edit this with Copilot. And let me just edit once again this with Copilot and tell this Copilot whatever you want is to do. And finally, let me just show you that you can even make it more functional, or you can use column case. I don't know, you can play around with this, but be aware that every time that you make a change on your document, it will deduct 1 AI credit from your account. Copilot in Excel is especially valuable for people who find data work intimidating. Many beginners are comfortable reading simple tables, but they are less confident when they need to interpret patterns, identify trends, or understand what the numbers are really saying. Copilot can help you reduce that barrier by explaining data in natural language, highlighting possible patterns, supporting organizations, and making the overall experience feel more approachable. That does not mean it replaces analytical skill, but it can make the path into analysis much less overwhelming for less experienced users. At the same time, data always requires responsibility. Copilot can help you notice something, but you should still understand what are you looking at before you trust a conclusion. A beginner should use Copilot in Excel to support interpretation, not to bypass thinking. You should check whether the table is clean, whether the request was clear, and whether the interpretation actually fit the numbers. If you build that habit early, Excel becomes a strong learning environment where Copilot helps you grow your confidence instead of replacing the need to understand the data itself. Another major benefit is that Copilot can make language of data more accessible. Instead of forcing users to rely on formulas or manual interpretation, from the very beginning, it can help you translate numbers into explanations that are easier to understand. That lowers the emotional barrier around the spreadsheets that helps your learners stay engaged longer while they build confidence. At the same time, you should try to work with Copilot in Excel because it shows how can you trend or explain some pattern or use different options in Excel, of course. Let's hop to our Excel and see the examples that I prepared. If we go to our excel.cloud.microsoft, you must once again be logged in or sign in to your cloud.microsoft, as I already told you, and then we can start create a blank workbook or upload a file or simply use one of these, you can see, lists, examples, invoices, project management, for example, budgets, calendars, and others. If I, for example, click on here to create a blank document, you can see that we are getting our table here. And once again, this is our Copilot. Let me click on create a table. And as you can see, it automatically creating a table. And we can, of course, see this prompt, create a table for this workbook by guiding me step by step. Start by asking what I'll use it for and suggest relevant columns in bulleted format. Display the table with sample data in the selected sheet. Keep responses brief and clear. And now in the step 1, we need to choose what table we want. And for example, let me try to type number 6, for example, and let's send this prompt. So we're using sales tracker, and after that Copilot will create our table. Now we need to, yes, I'm happy, yes, do it. And finally, let's see how can we create our table from scratch. And once again, I must remind you that we are using business plan because when I I spend all my AI credits in my personal plan. So it really doesn't any matter. I want to show you as much as I can. Of course, these agents in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook are much more than these few examples. Let me click on done, and now I'll try to please expand this table, and let's see what are we getting. This is just a simple example. I can import my table, as you can see. Let's click on File, and I can open this book XLS, as you can see, but I want to expand this table just to have some more examples. And this is how can you create your tables. It really doesn't matter. Of course, we have this table, and let me add 5 rows, for example. Do not try this. I'm just simple trying to get this table much more comfortable, so we can, for example, use Copilot Excel to identify trends in this table, and we can then use our sample prompts that I already created. I will show you here. So we have another 5 examples. How can we use these simple prompts to work with our Excel, for example. I will now copy my first example, and this example 1, we're still waiting for our Copilot to check everything. And here, if you click on data, you can visualize your data or clean your data. But for now, let's stick with simple things. And now we will be waiting for this to finish. And we will use this example 1 to identify trends in our table. So this is useful when you have a set of numbers, but you want quick help understanding what is increasing, decreasing, or changing over time, as you can see. So the prompt will look like this. Analyze this table and identify the main trends, important changes, and any patterns that would be useful for a beginner to understand. For example. And after some time, you can see that we are getting our table another additional 5 rows, and now we are creating or trying to use this, analyze this table and identify main trends, as I already told you, and we are getting this sale track analysis with a top performer, and that's it, as you can see. Then we can use example number 2. We can use Copilot in Excel to explain data in simple language. This is very helpful when the numbers feel difficult to interpret, and if you want to use a more natural explanation what data is showing. For example, let me copy our second example, and let's send this prompt. So explain this spreadsheet in a simple language. Help me understand what the numbers mean and what the most important points are. So we are sending this. This prompt, and exactly you can see that we're getting the explanation in simple language. Date is when the sale happened, customer who bought its product is when they bought, quantity, unit price, sorry, total salesperson, 1 numbers tells you, and you're getting this explanation. Then we can also check the example number 3. We can use Copilot in Excel to organize and clean information. If you have a messy table, for example, inconsistent labels or unclear categories, Copilot can help you think how to structure the data better. So we can simply copy this example number 3, paste it here, and you can review the spreadsheet and suggest how I can organize the data more clearly. Identify any issues with structure, labels, or consistency. Let's send this prompt. So you can play around with this. You can, for example, ask for Copilot to create a new column, and we can now see what's already good and minor suggestion improvement. So we can add a section summary below the table, and we'll choose the option number 5, all of the above, to implement this. And be aware, if you do this follow-up prompts or do some refinement on this table, you will be charged for every of this section. Every change in your table will be charged by 1 AI credit. Do not forget. And finally, we have, of course, example 4. For example, we can use Copilot to compare categories or values. This is especially useful when you want to understand which item perform better, which has stronger results, or where is the bigger differences appear. For example, here it is, as you can see, and we are getting our new column and the summary of this, as you can see. Then let me copy this prompt example number 4, so we can compare the main categories. Let me paste it here. Compare the main categories in this table and explain which one perform better, which ones perform worse, and where the biggest differences appear. So let's send this prompt. Of course, we can also use Copilot in Excel to summarize the key findings from our data. For example, this can save time when you want, for example, a short review before doing deeper analysis and something like that. As you can see, this is our product by salesperson, and we can, for example, visualize this. Let me just add yes instead of visualize this breakdown table to chart. You can play around with this. You can create your own chart. You can play it complete dashboard. Just here you can add ask Copilot to create a new sheet, to create anything that you want. As you can see, we can also rename this file. It is automatically saved in our OneDrive. And as you can see, if I click here on this step 1, you can see that what our agent is doing. It's add a breakdown table and chart to visualize this category comparison, as you can see. And you can see this in real time. So this is how can you use your Excel agent. Let me click on done, and you can do whatever you want. Let me just try another this prompt number 5, as we already know. This is how can you summarize the key findings from the spreadsheet and present the most important insight in a short and clear format. So you can summarize this in your own prompt, of course. Once again, you can create a complete dashboard, create this summary, product breakdown, and whatever you want. This is just a simple explanation of how can we start with nothing and how can we create beautiful and structured dashboards, charts, tables, and anything else. And you can see whatever you want. So that's it. I will now stop here, and be careful with your AI credits once again. Copilot with PowerPoint is extremely useful because presentation work usually combines several difficult tasks at once. You need to decide what to include, how to structure it, and how much detail is enough, and how to turn information into a message that an audience can follow. Copilot can help you move faster through the early stage by proposing structure, helping summarize key ideas, and supporting the transformation of notes or documents into a presentation content, ready content. For example, if you are teachers, students, and content creators, this can save a significant amount of time in preparation phase. Still, the quality of a presentation depends on more than speed. You need a logical sequence, a clear message, the right level of detail, and content that fits the audience. Microsoft has highlighted that Copilot with PowerPoint can take more app-native actions through agentic capabilities, helping users execute more complex presentation, work while keeping the human in control. This is powerful, but it also reinforces an important lesson. AI can help you build faster, but you're still responsible for whether the presentation teaches well, communicates clearly, and looks like coherent from beginning to an end. Then, PowerPoint is also a valuable place to use Copilot because presentations are not only about information, they are about teaching, guiding attention, and helping an audience to understand something in a structured way. Copilot can accelerate the preparation process, but it also gives you more time to focus on what really matters: the message, the story, the sequence, and the clarity of the content you want people to remember. If you're a beginner, this is extremely helpful because presentation creates often feels overwhelming at first. There are many decisions to make, and it is easy to get stuck between too much details or not enough structure. Copilot can help reduce that pressure by giving you a starting point, but it still leaves room for you to shape the presentation according to your own teaching style and purpose. Let's now go to our PowerPoint and see how can we create a simple presentation. Once again, we are in our PowerPoint in the cloud, and of course you can do everything in your app. So we're using now Microsoft Copilot PowerPoint app. You can create your own presentation with Copilot, or you can create a simple black presentation, as you can see, or we can, let me just go back here, or we can upload our file. I will click on create with Copilot. Of course, you can use different templates if you want, but let's make it simple. And of course, we will create this from scratch using Copilot. Now, when you creating your PowerPoint presentation, you can, of course, choose to use this edit to create your with Copilot, and it will, of course, as you already know, edit your presentation directly in this canvas, or you can only chat with your Copilot. So you can, if you don't have any credits, you can chat with Copilot, and then Copilot will give you some ideas, and you can implement those ideas into your presentation. Now, if we click to add content, you can add your work content, upload files, or use all skills prepared for questions, review for your presentation, or visualize this slide. I will start from scratch. Let me delete this, and we will use our example 1 to create a presentation outline from a topic or idea. This is useful when you know the subject, but still need structure in the flow of the slide. Let me just copy this slide. Of course, I created these 5 examples, just like you already know or already used. Let me just paste this here. So we want to create a clear presentation outline about Microsoft Copilot for beginners. Organize it into logical sections suitable for a short training presentation. Let me click on send. And now, as you can see, our PowerPoint is generating information about this presentation. And now, how many slides are you targeting for this presentation? You can choose between 6 and 8, 10 or 12 or 15. I'll use 6 slides. Who is primary audience for this training? Let me choose managers or leaders. And should I research the latest Copilot features and capabilities to make the content current? Yes, research it. Let me click on create. Now we add some additional information, and now Copilot is starting to create this presentation, of course. You can track what is he doing, he's performing required action, planning information gathering, and so on and so forth. Then you can also refine your, once the presentation is created, you can use Copilot in PowerPoint to turn document or notes into slide, for example, just like this. So you can use something like turn these notes into PowerPoint slides, keep the wording clear, concise, and suitable for a beginner audience. Then you can, for example, use Copilot PowerPoint to simplify complex ideas for presentation. This is also helpful when you want your slides to be easier to understand and not to be overloaded with detail, for example. Then you can use Copilot in PowerPoint to improve slide structure and messaging. So, for example, you can ask it to suggest better flow, stronger headings, or clearer sequence or points. Then we can use example for Copilot. Let me just answer this. We are choosing our visual style. Then, for example, you can use Copilot to create a short summary slide or conclusion slide, or this is useful when we want to, for example, to close presentation with the most important takeaways. Then sample will be something like create a conclusion slide for this presentation with most important takeaways in a clear and professional format, and so on and so forth. When you're specifying your prompt for PowerPoint, you need, if you want, you need to be detailed. For example, you need to add some more information. The more information, the more powerful and professional your presentation will be. For example, you can say Copilot to use, for example, Times New Roman in headings and some different style of paragraph, or generate your own images, use bullets, shapes, transitions, animations, use footer, for example. Then you can ask Copilot to refine your slide. For example, on slide number 22, the table is not great. Use this to fix the table, and for example, use arrows and something like this. You can add footer, for example, use footer on every page except for the first one, and something like that. So the more you are go into details, the more presentation will be successful. So while we are waiting, so I will not go into details with this, but this is how can you create a presentation and track everything here. So we will come back after this presentation is finished. And after some time, if you go back to our PowerPoint presentation, you can see that we have a clear, structured presentation, which is a good starting point to do something else. For example, this is our main page. As you can see, you can edit this if you want. And this is our first, you can see what is Microsoft Copilot. Let me just expand this, and you can see even more the productivity impact and so on and so forth. And you can go and refine this. For example, if you're not happy or satisfied with this, you can always expand this, or for example, add some command. For example, if you want to extend this presentation, you can say, for example, create 4 or 5 more slides, add speaker notes, include slide to common prompts, and so on and so forth. So you can go even further and add, for example, transitions if you want. Here you can edit manually. So if you go here, you can see that now it's working as it is, and so on and so forth. So if you're not happy, you can ask Copilot to, for example, change this text, or let me just click here and use a Copilot to auto-rewrite, make it professional, as you can see. And now Copilot will do everything. But be aware, if you're using, and we are using personal plan, because this is a course about personal plan, then it will deduct your AI credit, 1 AI credit for every refinement or every command. But if you create 50 pages or 50 slides in one prompt, then it will count as 1 AI credit. So be aware of that. Thank you for watching, and you can play around with these example prompts. And now it's time to see how can you work with Outlook. Copilot in Outlook is one of the most practical forms of AI assistance because email is something many people handle every day, often in a large volume and under time pressure. Writing clearly, respond professionally, and understanding long messages threads can consume a surprising amount of time and energy. Copilot can help by drafting emails, improving structure and tone, summarizing long conversation, and make it easier to understand the main points before you respond. For many users, this is one of the fastest ways to experience immediate productivity value from Copilot. But speed should never replace judgment in communication. Before sending any message, you still need to review the tone, intent, correctness, and appropriateness of what was written. Email is often where professionalism becomes visible, so it is important that the message still sounds like you and serves your real purpose. The best use of Copilot in Outlook is not to switch off your thinking, but to reduce repetitive effort and make it easier to communicate well under normal daily pressure. Another practical advantage in Copilot in Outlook is that it can reduce decision fatigue. When you're handling several emails, long threads, and repeated communication tasks, even small writing decisions begin to consume mental energy. Copilot can support you by generating a clear draft more quickly, helping you identify the core issue and reducing the time required to move from reading to responding. That benefit is especially meaningful for beginners and busy users who may not always feel confident about tone or wording. Having a strong starting draft can make communication feel less stressful and more manageable. As long as you continue to review what will be sent, Copilot in Outlook can become a very practical support tool for daily communication. To be honest with you, Outlook is the least application for me that I'm using right now. But let's learn more about Copilot in Outlook. Well, if you want to draft a professional email from a short idea, you can do it with the help of Copilot. As you can see, we have our Copilot here, and if I click on this Copilot, you can see that we can start to create some new draft. But if I go here and click on new email, I can send, for example, myself an email, and here we can choose to start typing or help me write write a professional email. So as you can see, I'm using these examples. Let me copy this first example of this prompt that I prepared for this, and here we can use some example prompts. Write a professional email based on this short idea. Keep the tone polite, clear, and suitable for business communication. And see, here's the short idea for this email. Copilot Personal. Copilot, sorry. M365 Personal. And let's hit on enter. And let's see how Copilot helping us to draft a professional email. Let me just use this example, and then after we edit our more instruction, we will see how can we draft an email. So here it is. As you can see, this is our email. Let me just expand this a little more. As you can see, so this is our email. Hello, I hope this message finds you well. I'm writing to inquire something else. Today, kind regards. So this is some kind of skeleton of this email. So you can even go further. This is how can you draft email. You can then adjust the tone, make it formal, tailored for a specific recipient. For example, shorten it to be more direct. You can use example number 2, for example. Use this Copilot in Outlook to rewrite an email in a better tone. This helps when a message sounds too informal, too direct, or not clear enough for the situation. So let me just copy our example number 2 to we want to rewrite this email. Then I will paste it here and rewrite this email in a more professional and respectful tone. Keep the message clear and easy to understand. So Copilot is now rewriting the whole email, as you can see. Then we can click on replace, and the new message will be here, as you can see. Then you can use Copilot to summarize a long email thread. This is especially useful when you want to quickly understand the key discussion points before replying, if you want. For example, you can type something like summarize this email thread, or highlight the key points, decisions, and next step in a short format. Then you can use Copilot in Outlook to prepare to reply a message, for example, instead of starting from zero in this example. So you can type draft a reply to this email, make the response professional, clear, and aligned with the main topic of the conversation. Then you can use Copilot Outlook to shorten or improve long messages before sending them. This is useful when you want communication to be more direct and easier to recipient to read. You can see, for example, shorten this email and improve its clarity, keep the tone professional, and make message easier to read. Or, for example, you can check or highlight this, and let me click, or let me now just collapse this and click on this little pen. Then you can, for example, choose this to auto rewrite, get coaching, make it shorter, make it longer, change the tone if you want. For example, you can be more casual if you want. Now it's thinking, as you can see, and this will rewrite this paragraph. You can replace, for example, this, and so on. So if we go back, we can simplify this prompt add more details, make more creative, clarified purpose or intent, fix grammar and spelling, or customize draft, for example. Then we can use something called get coaching. As you can see, now it's analyzing our email, gathering tone, generating suggestions, as you can see, and then you can get coach. Then Copilot can coach you, as you can see, maintain your profession friendly, or reader sentiment, or clarity. You can apply your suggestion, for example. So now we are applying our suggestion, and whatever you do, we can insert, for example, below. As you can see, now we have two messages, and one is the both are generated by Copilot, but is different, as you can see. Then, for example, if you go to settings and if we go to, for example, Copilot, you can choose your draft instructions, for example. You can give some custom instructions about your emails, like different tone, length, greeting, so AI generated drafts sound more like you or like me. You can add some calendar instructions, preferences, and so on and so forth. So you can turn off or turn on this Copilot if you don't want to use it. And that's it. This is the whole purpose of your Copilot. So you can draft an email, rewrite an email, summarize long threads, highlight key points, draft a reply to this email, for example. And you can also shorten email that improve its clarity, keep the tone professional, and that's it. That's the whole point of using. And some different examples, how can you use Copilot in Outlook. So another 5 examples will be available to you just like in previous chapters. Well, after everything that we saw and learned in this course so far, the great question is why is M365 Copilot Personal good for me? Well, is it worth using? Well, the answer depends on the type of work or what you do. But for many users, the value becomes clear very quickly. If you write often, study often, organize information, prepare documents, respond to emails, build presentations, or simply want to help moving from the idea to action faster, Copilot can become a meaningful system support. It is especially useful and valuable when you work alone or manage many small digital tasks because it helps reduce the effort involved in starting, organizing, and refining your work. If you're a beginner, one of the biggest benefits is psychological as well as practical. Copilot reduces the friction of the blank page, the confusion of too much information, and the hesitation that comes when a task feels larger than you expected. Once you have a draft, it gives you a way to begin, and beginning is often the hardest part. Once you have a draft, a summary, a structure, or clear direction, the rest of the work becomes easier to manage. That is why even users who are not tightly technical can still gain value from this experience very quickly. Another reason is it may be good for you is flexibility. You don't need to be a technical expert, a developer, or a large business user to benefit from Copilot. If your work includes reading, writing, organizing, summarizing, presenting, or communicating, then these are a strong chance that Copilot can support at least some part of your routine. That makes it relevant to much wider audience that many people first assume. In many cases, the value becomes visible not through one dramatic moment, but through repeated small improvements. A faster draft, here a clearer email there, a better summary, a more organized outline, a quicker starting point for a presentation. Over time, those small gains add up. This is often how personal productivity improvements become meaningful in real life. Once you finish a course like this, the next step is not theory, but practice. A real understanding comes from repeated use in your own situations. That means taking the concept you learned and applying them to everyday tasks such as note-taking, rewriting content, summarizing material, planning a lesson, drafting an email, preparing a presentation, or organizing a small project. The more often you use Copilot with a clear purpose, the more natural the experience becomes, and more quickly you begin to notice which prompts, workflows, and habits work best for you. My recommendation is to build skill gradually. Do not try to master everything at once. Instead, choose a few logical or practical scenarios and repeat them until they feel natural. Improve one prompt at a time. Compare weak prompts with strong prompts. Ask Copilot to explain, summarize, rewrite, and organize until you begin to understand how different instructions produce different outcomes. That kind of repetition builds confidence, and confidence is what transforms Copilot from an interesting feature into a truly useful daily assistant. It is also important to give yourself a permission to learn through experimentations. Not every prompt will be perfect, and not every result will be exactly what you expected. This is completely normal. The goal, or the real goal, is not perfection from the beginning, but steady progress. The more you experiment, observe, and refine, the more naturally you will begin to understand how to work with Copilot in a way that fits your own style and goals. If you want a practical next step after this course, start with 3 simple habits. First, use Copilot regularly instead of only occasionally. Second, improve your prompts by being more specific about audience, tone, and purpose. Third, always review and refine what the system produces instead of accepting the result without thought. Those 3 habits alone can dramatically improve your result and help you become a stronger and more confident user over time. And be aware about AI credits, because if you're using this personal plan, then you will only get 60 AI credits for Copilot, of course. As we close this course, I want to leave you with one essential idea. Microsoft Copilot is a powerful, but its real value does not come from novelty alone. It comes from thoughtful, responsible, and repeated use. If you use it only occasionally as a curiosity, you may never see a deeper value. But if you use it as a practical assistant for writing, thinking, organizing, learning, and refining your work, it can become a meaningful part of your daily productivity. If you are a beginner, that should encourage you rather than intimidate you. You don't need to know everything at the start. You only need a clear mindset, a willingness to practice, and the discipline to review what AI produces. I hope this course has given you a strong foundation for doing exactly that. From here, the next step is simple. Keep practicing, keep improving your prompts, and keep developing your own professional way of working with AI tools inside the Microsoft 365 world. As a final message, I want to remind you that technology becomes valuable only when it's connected to real use. The purpose of this course was not simply to introduce live features, but to help you understand how those features can support your work, your learning, and your ability to create more effectively. If this course helped you become more confident, more curious, and more intentional in the way you use AI, then it has already achieved something meaningful. From this point forward, the most important thing is not to wait for the perfect moment to use Copilot. Use it in small but real situations. Use it when you write, when you study, when you organize, and when you prepare content, step by step. The practice will turn knowledge into skill. And once the skill begins to grow, Copilot stops being just an interesting look or tool and becomes a practical part of how you work and learn. So, in some recap, we learn through 24 lessons what is a Copilot, how it works, how can we understand licensing, what is M365 Personal, how can you create account. We learn about chat, different 365 experiences, how can you analyzing information about your documents, how can you draft documents and create documents and pictures, what is a prompt engineering, how can you write professional and simple prompts, what is a Copilot memory. We learn about pages and notebooks, agents, then we learn about standalone apps. We learn how can we use Copilot in Word, in Excel, in PowerPoint, in Outlook. And then we learn why is M365 good for you? And then I talked about what's your next goal, and in this lesson, this is a final word from this course. So some key takeaways: that Copilot is a collaborator, not an autopilot. Strongest results come from interaction, refinement, and clear direction. Prompt quality equals to result quality. Define topic, goal, audience, tone, and structure for best output. Always review and validate. Build healthy trust, not blind trust. You own the final decision. Remember that. Start simple, grow steadily. Practice with real tasks and build confidence through repetition and think in workflows, not features. Connect Copilots to your actual habit for meaningful productivity. Well, thank you once again. This was Microsoft Copilot M365 Personal. And my name is Vladimir Živković. If you want to support me, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. See you in some other courses. Thank you.